Hello, I'm Josie Barnard, Subject Head of Creative Writing at De Montfort University. It is my very great pleasure to introduce Professor Simon Perril's inaugural lecture, Synaptic Foliage. First, a bit about Simon. Simon joined DMU in 2006 to co-design and set up the creative writing programme with Cathy Bell. His poetry publications include The Slip, being launched tonight, In the Final Year of My 40s, Beneath, Archilochus on the Moon, Newton's Splinter, Nitrate, A Clutch of Odes, and Hearing is Itself, Suddenly a Kind of Singing. As a critic, he has written widely on contemporary poetry, editing the books The Salt Companion to John James and Tending the Vortex, the works of Brian Catling. He has written many book chapters and articles on contemporary poets. Alongside his writing, Simon has developed a visual practice in collage. And tonight, we'll also see his first excursions into visual work using video. He is Director of Leicester Centre for Creative Writing at DMU. Simon Perril.
Hello, everybody. Thanks ever so much, Josie. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to this little soiree. I know how much amazing work is happening in the Zoomiverse, so I'm really humbled that people would take the time to join this and to help me launch The Slip, and to do a couple of other things too. And my sense is that everybody's really exhausted with the protracted lockdown, aren't they? So I'm certainly not going to give a lecture. I'm actually going to take you back to primary school, and I'm going to give a good old-fashioned show and tell. Most often when I get the chance to give poetry readings, it's in venues that don't necessarily allow me to use visuals. So I want to, as I've got you captive in an online environment, I want to actually share 3 new videos for 3 projects and to read them basically, and just give a little bit of a context for each of them before I do that. Synaptic Foliage, if I can get my slides up, I don't know if those can be seen. Are they on the screen? Yeah, I think they are. Synaptic Foliage is basically the name that I've always given to my collage practice. For me, it's just got a sense of associative thinking with and across images. So the second piece actually that I'll talk you through in due course tonight actually takes the collages that I've been doing and puts them into a video piece. But I'll talk more about that in due course. So the first thing I want to do is just to give a little bit of context for the book launch, which is my latest book, The Slip. So if I can just move my slides along there. So this is actually a project I've been working on pretty much for 10 years, and I must take this opportunity to really thank Tony Fraser and Shearsman for really looking after me and supporting the work across that span of years. You know, it means so much to a writer to have a publisher that they can rely upon, who's willing to support whatever it is they do. And so massive thanks to Tony and Shearsman for being there throughout all of this. So it's a trilogy, I'm embarrassed to say. I think it's probably because I'm competitive with brilliant colleagues I've got who write novel trilogies and things. So this is a trilogy. It's three interrelated books exploring what I'm calling the tangled roots of lyric. So supposedly Archilochus is the first lyric poet in ancient Greece. And he was a soldier as well as a poet, and he took part in the earliest colonial expeditions from Paros to Thasos. And his reputation as a poet in the ancient world was actually second only to Homer. And yet it's also a reputation that deeply troubled the ancient world. Archilochus is famed for his iambic verse, and that's as much to do with subject matter as it is to do with meter or anything like that. So iambic in the ancient world was a form that was associated basically with ritualized invective curses, obscenities. So it was kind of troubling stuff. And there's a crime scene at the center of the birth of lyric writing that runs something like this. Archilochus was due to marry Nebulae, but for reasons that history doesn't preserve, Lycambes, the father, calls it off. And as a result, Archilochus writes poems about Lycambes and the daughters that are so scurrilous, the whole family commit suicide. So it's pretty dark stuff. And inevitably, there's huge scholastic debate about whether this story is biographical fact, whether it's a legend that codes suspicions over the power of poetic language to cause harm. And each of the 3 books is 80 lyric poems, 80 untitled lyric poems, and each has a different speaker and a different situation. So Archilochus on the Moon is spoken by Archilochus after he's been exiled by the Delphic oracle to colonize the moon, obviously as some kind of punishment. Beneath is spoken by Nebulae as she arrives in the underworld. And the book I'm going to read from tonight, the new book, The Slip, is spoken by Lycambes, and it's spoken in his last days under the scorching heat of the dog star, undergoing this poetic curse. And Archilochus's iambic bite was often associated with the bite of a rabid dog. So the visuals in the piece try and capture something of this kind of paradox of an unquenchable thirst and fear of water, the two combined, often thought of as being the last stages of rabies. The distorted colours you'll see also are deliberate. When I was researching the book, I really fascinated to find out that there was a concept in the ancient world called poikilos, and it was a prized perceptual disturbance that celebrated all manner of things that shimmer and all manner of iridescence, whether that be the gleam of armor in sunlight, whether it be the throat markings of a wryneck bird, or whether it be the scales of a snake. So that's where those ideas come from. And animals are very frequent across the book, actually, because Archilochus used a lot of beast fables in his writing, in the fragments that remain, and often aligned himself with the cunning of a fox. And Lycambes' name actually translates as wolf walker or wolf gate or wolf steps. So what I'm going to do now is read you an excerpt from the last days of the wolf walker Lycambes, undergoing his curse, recalling the colonial exploits of his younger days. And the only name I think you need to know is Amphimado, I think comes up in one of these, and she was Lycambes' wife. So forgive me while I faff around and find the right clip and set it all up in motion. So bear with me. I am still here. I have not done a runner. Hang on. Okay, so. And what I'll do is once the piece is up and running, you won't see me. I'll just simply read over the visuals. So here we go. Sorry, everybody, it will work. Night breathes colk, exhales. I remember the ripple of sails, their snap as the wind broke. Behind us, the ass's back of Paros, or was it Thassos, where poke the bones of home. In the dappled dusk, outskirting the city, I trudge the dustlands, thirst my guide. Sirius, whose scorching bite blights tree bark, strikes swift, sharp as the iridescent scabbard of a snake, stirs black bile that slaps the sides of my kettle belly, abrim with an inner barking. I cannot slake this want. It is as if I have drooled this silvered crucible before me, pool of my riddling shape, in which I make out a liquid fox, its wet grin, red eyes with the slanted pupils of a cat. A father overlooks. This is his perennial task, and he asks of the passage of light its business, for if it marks what it touches, his task is to mask this. He has no jurisdiction over the length of days or their consumption by shadow. Still, he overlooks, would angle his branches just so. You know, there are compositions of shield you'll not find on any battlefield. Said things tread close behind me. Said things in flight as speargrass barbs all paths and clings to all my loved things. Said things catch that tightening patch of skin thrumming back at the drumming ear. Said things pry, seek out gaps, dog the tracks that route trade to the mutest parts of a man's acts. Said things seep neath all his doings. Said things build his ruins in struts of straw. Stack tinder for the flammable whispers of neighbours, party leaders, lawgivers. Hang them all. Mix the matrix of said things to a squall. I am at sea. Things that flex, stretch their shape, only then to shrink. I think of them. Wings unfurled, then folded. Limbs thrust out, then retracted. Necks craned beyond frame. Heads then sunk back. That moment of expansion, native to all that moves, proves its contrary state of retreat. Telesicles, Delphi spat us out, had us reach a gentle stretch, bid us fetch the unploughed lands beyond. Your son sung of them, lashed all that crossed him on this path. The aftermath was spittle, oft flecked red, leaking from more than mouth, and the space to plant, sow, mine, mark, cleave and carve, to hand ourselves what's other in name, knowing how it came to us and from whom. Borrow the bile from a street dog, the stripe from a wasp, the bite from the law, and you will have no more ingredients than gods bestow. We are stirred, yet damned so our waters break, climb our sides as we leak, soft vessels barely held. Once, approaching Thassos, night had barely sprung its trap, when side-saddled Selene spilt her silver over Poseidon's tray, as a slave boy sang of home from our prow. The touch of his sounds circled fields, surrounded tracks, inclined, steep mountain passes, verses feeling, sparse grass and rock underfoot, lyre netting all, till it slipped his voice's grip, left his frame, leaving its promise, a labyrinth of holes, tunneling his bones. His shape trembled, snapping like a sail. Amphimedo, you taught me things inexplicable to the body of a god. How some moving parts stop so close to you, whilst all around continues, persists, filling and falling, spilling and crawling into other shapes. All this leaving me on the edge, joining nothing save my daughters. Of all things that break, words prove the deepest splinter. Words, lead cold, hold my tongue, a frozen nail. The skin of a god glistens not through exertion, but to mortal eyes wears the shimmer of night jewels, or flower studs in spring, all voting for various colours and exploding meadows. We bread eaters are more content, caught animal kin. I entertain the wryneck in line, spot and shade, head vacating its bodily gait. Hail the tortoiseshell's play of pattern, backing the lyre, or the skin of a snake like an argumentative sea. Bone needles in woven light, threading the fray. Fox, you have regaled us. Your fables of salt and overturned tables fumble at my outlines. I am neither eagle nor wolf, am spined like a hedgehog on Paros under Sirius. We lycambids, oath deep, buried quarry. Wolf steps across dog days on blistered pads, watching the high climbing goat, keen for the low waters. Each net its holes, each city its walls, each body its exits, each polis poikilos, bounding turbulence, changeling, skin covering snake, an octopus secreting night in which to hide. Play dead, fox of self-cancelling step. Play rock, octopus. You see not of all groping limbs. There are things cunning cannot trap. Though your words prick the furrows of my back to a field of waving speargrass. Stay, see this wolf poet turn hedgehog and know my trick picks your locks. Okay, thanks everybody. So that's the slip, and available from Shearsman online, the whole trilogy. So treat somebody to some darkness. Okay, so what I want to do now is introduce the next piece. If I can get my slides back up, Let me see if I can do that. Bear with me a second. Got to get that one down. Right, I'm going to share screen. Okay, so the next project I'm going to introduce and just say a little bit about before reading an excerpt from is called the Diverters Manual. And it's an ongoing project, and it takes its title from a book that Max Ernst, the artist, wrote when he was a youngster and that his father destroyed. So I'm inventing a lost book. And Ernst was a key member of both the Dada and Surrealist art groups. And at the center of this book are the years that build up to and surround his famous painting that you can see on the screen there, Europe After the Rain 2, which was painted across roughly the years 1940 to 1942. I don't know what you can make out on the screen there, but just to the side of the largest column on the screen, then you can see that there are two figures, and one has the head of a bird, and the figures potentially represent Ernst himself and Leonora Carrington, amazing artist and writer, and also at this time Ernst's lover. And they eloped together and set up a beautiful house full of sculpture and painting in the south of France. And then the Nazis occupied France, and Ernst, as a German and an overt enemy of the Reich, on their wanted list as a degenerate artist, was arrested several times, placed in several concentration camps. And Europe After the Rain was really painted, across these times of both incarceration and escape. Marseille became a particular hub in this period, with exiles gathering in what was then the only port available in the unoccupied zone, and obviously desperate to leave. And Ernst and other surrealists and political dissidents all spent time in Marseille in a building called the Villa Airbel, and that building became the secret headquarters of the American Rescue Committee, run by Varian Fry, that was dedicated to getting exiled at risk artists and writers and political dissidents out of the country. So the bird-headed figure in the painting is a recurring figure in Ernst's work. So if I move this next slide on, the bird-headed figure is basically a character called Lop Lop, and it's Ernst's alter ego, and he crops up in so much of Ernst's work, and you can see just two separate examples there. You know, one of a painting of a series called Lop Lop Presents, and an excerpt from a collage novel that Ernst developed. So what I want to do is read an excerpt from this work in progress, and I describe the book as being a fake graphic novel. So it's a mixture of prose and poetry, and the prose takes the form of plate descriptions, imaginary plate descriptions for what we might see if this really were a graphic novel. And it's a homage. Those Jack Spicer fans out there will recognise that Jack Spicer once wrote a great book called A Fake Novel based on the life of Arthur Rimbaud. So it's a bit of an update of that, I guess. The excerpts I'll read also contain Loplop's series of aphorisms about collage, which was great fun to write. So forgive me for faffing. We'll now try and see if I can get the video up. So again, bear with me. Oops, wrong one. Right, so bear with me. I just remember how to do this. Oops, wrong button. No, come back. Sorry, too many tabs open. Right, what to do? Share screen. Okay, nearly with you, nearly with you. There we go. Right, okay. Okay, so this should start with a black screen. Max on the moon, alien amongst pickled papers and lunar craters, scalpel and glue. His expression calls for ever-looming close-ups as, frame by frame, we enter the orbit of his gaze. We are looking at looking, an intense vacancy that recaptions the smallest things, repatriates their dreams of home. Welcome to the realm of Diana, proprietor of a lost property. Max is at home here, reuniting missing things with the gaze that once positioned them. His is an art of listening, being taken in to the confidences of surfaces, the reveries and chatter of vegetable matter with their homeless mutter, the cast-offs of capital. The Diverters Manual is the true account of the behaviour of collage. It is the pang in the prank, the frisson that flickers beyond the frame, the shiver of anticipated touch, the accommodation of elsewhere on strange plains that breathe home. There are no foreign bodies. We are above, thousands of feet. Lop has us by the scruff as we descend. Europe, a mortified mulch, part map, part poultice. At 10,000 feet, neat red stitches suture the prehistoric future. After the rain, there is again the hardening of trade arteries, the exit of outposts, the reupholstery of home. Rorschach watermarks, pockmarked territories, softened promontories, land deferred, desiccated, renegotiated, colour of chewed and spat treaties, continental catastrophes, congealed cataclysms. We fly through Loplop's eye, an aqueous orb absorbing light, understudy of post-diluvian night. Avian benediction. Max and the medal are a muddle, a mess. Lop lop bless the man with the iron head, this incendiary egg. Dada bomb, dada boom, we are hatched too soon. Dada boom, dada bomb, advance digitigrades of song. Max and the medal, non-alignment packed, part foot, part pedal. Lop lop bless this curious vehicle. Dada bomb, dada boom, we are hatched too soon. Dada boom, dada bomb, advance digitigrades of song. Max and the medal, thump of mortar, poke of pestle. Lop lop bless such a marriage of muscle and metal. Dada bomb, dada boom, we are hatched too soon. Dada boom, dada bomb, advance digitigrades of song. Max and the medal, which is stem and which petal. Lop lop bless each thousand beech leaf, deeply dreaming on the trees. Dada bomb, dada boom, we are hatched too soon. Dada boom, dada bomb, advance digitigrades of song. The medal and Max, forged to soften imperious facts. Lop lop bless his albumin locks, his calcium cap. Dada bomb, dada boom, we are hatched too soon. Dada boom, dada bomb, advance digitigrades of song. A page of panels that stage the incubation of a bird egg that is simultaneously the oval openings of a gelid eye. We are inside the evolution of the interior of sight. As we step in the fractured gutters of the fake graphic novel, we are shutters that take and develop in the blackout between frames. This is Border Patrol in the russet black of the image, the underside of eyelids, the bracken that blackens underfoot in the deepest forest. Nothing is at home here. We are roaming storm fronts over precipitant panels, the dot in the eye. Lop Lop presents a theory of collage. Collage is an art form of the alien. Collage is a verb for the refusal of the alien. Collage is a blindness to borders. Collage is the indigestion of orders. Collage courts dissimilarity to foster belonging. Collage is the distillation of longing for elsewhere. Collage is the migrant's dream of home. Collage is the preparation of glue from bones. Collage is on intimate terms with hope. Collage is a promissory note to the lost. Collage is the denial of distinctions between wood and tree. Collage is an art of illicit assignation. Collage is a liberation of the erotic life of textures. Collage is a coupling in the undergrowth. Collage is a trembling in synaptic foliage. Collage is unpersecuted crime, silent rhyme. Collage is the marriage of the attention of lists and the inattention of the listless. Collage is a system in search of a purpose it might then avoid. Collage is the dialectic of holes and net. Collage is the setting of the unsaid in a theatre of the unmet. Collage is a gravitation towards. Collage is a theory of accommodation. Collage is a welcome mat on the moon. Collage is schemata stigmata. Collage builds a dwelling for the redundant. Collage counters a culture's phantasectomy. Collage is a space expedition to our alien planet. Collage is a liquid suspension of foreign bodies. Collage is acerbic aspic. Collage is the concealment of cuts, the overlay of borders, the agility of cats, the mispronunciation of orders. Okay, so I hope that worked. Okay, so if I get my slides back up just for the final intro. So again, forgive me faffing around a bit. I've got the right slide. Now, has that shared? Can people see that? Should be one slide. I think, yeah, you can see that. Okay, so final piece, and again, it's a work in progress, and it's actually grown out of the Diverters Manual. It's become a kind of a separate branch of the Diverters Manual to some degree because of a connection. So one of the other intellectuals stranded in Marseille during the occupation was Claude Levi Strauss. Levi Strauss became a hugely influential structural anthropologist, and he wrote a really intriguing book called Triste Tropique that's wonderfully hard to categorize. It's part anthropology, it's part memoir, it's part travelogue, and it's got the brilliant gall to start with the line, "I hate traveling and explorers," which is quite a thing for somebody in that profession to say. And the title literally translates as "sad tropics," but there are all kinds of puns, I think, going on in the French. But when it was first translated into English, by John Russell, it was titled "A World on the Wane," and it's quite a melancholy book in so many respects. The right-hand side of the slide you got in front of you, you can see a photo of the ship, the Capitaine Paul Lemerle. That was the ship that Levi Strauss eventually left Marseille on, and also on the boat was head surrealist André Breton, with whom Levi Strauss struck up quite a friendship and traded ideas, and quite kind of cutely they wrote extended letters to each other, even though they were actually on the same boat, kind of discussing various things. So I want to try and track those down. And at one point in the in Triste Tropique, Levi Strauss describes Breton wandering around on the deck of the ship, dressed in a fur coat and looking like a big blue bear, which I always thought was good fun. But Levi Strauss also had aspirations to write novels, and particularly novels in the style of Joseph Conrad. And one of the only surviving bits of evidence of this aim is a passage that's dropped into Tristes Tropiques, where he puts in a notebook entry that is a description in meticulous detail of witnessing a sunset from the deck of his ship and running through all the visual changes he can see. And it's always really fascinated me as a piece of writing. And when I reread it last summer, I suddenly realized there was all this connection to Marseille and all of the other things that are going on in the Diverters Manual that I didn't realize at the time. So it fascinated Levi Strauss too. As I say, he put in the entirety of this notebook entry on this sunset wholesale into the text, and then talked around it about how he regarded it as being containing the essence of all he aimed for in his work, which is quite a thing to say. So with my piece, I wanted to deliberately blur the boundaries between reading and writing, and I wanted to travel through the words of this source text. And so this is the excerpt from what I've done so far. I envisage each section as I'll call them decks, and almost like I've walked around the deck of a ship. So if I can get this to finally work, then just give me a couple of minutes to faff. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to actually stop sharing these slides. I'll get in the way. Turn that off. Talk to myself on camera so that everyone can hear what an idiot I am. Whoops. Okay, so get the text. Order one morning, superfluous cogitations leading up to the fact. Many Marseilles, all of them blended, memory iced, very pale gaiety, France impalpable, biting the usual, moored sea corridors, remember being dimly conscious engines. Water the night, rustling immobility, indeed, alteration. Wakened essence movement, suddenly perfect tang having stopped sensation. And in what port discomfort, disturbed by alteration, called the natural. Loaded the aroused, used course of things ashore. Awakening each morning, created a form of stability. We found ourselves, trip night docked, in a new sometimes. Then stretch resumption, wards the end, slower coast movement. Along more air, gradually too low, swampy warm visible. Mirages went off gradually, the opposite of a voyage. Transport dwelling place. Revolving morning would halt setting, prolonged home stage. The anthropological, however, did not think. Learnt features, training town can provide intense brevity. Hidden circumstances remained culture. I have learned, since glimpses, attractive concentration. Forced me to foreign quarters of empty deck space. Any vast alack area for a few setting minutes, sun all development. Cataclysms found a language, at once unstable, so supernatural phases presented others, resistance to should Appearances perpetuate grasp. Unique able sequences scented the deepest beginning, communicate sophistication. Secrets never recur, terms of discover go in all peculiar horizon. Granted profession, however meaning might expose, eventually clear everybody. A home, stable which would be none. I could wonder, these feverish graced moments, jotted evanescent forms, my second hand risking renewed perhaps, fascinated still. Scientists' word weather, qualifying dawn, according adjective fusion, since referring clear theoretical morning regret, betrays speculation. This interest oscillates, indivisible aspect is solar incident zone. May well be rays, sunlight misses thought, returned remarkable. This different prelude, close phenomenon operas from each fact. The face foretells all day break nature. Immediate lowering dark, it is during weather, we dawn meteorological, clear, rosy rest. Complete matter guarantee battles small-scale sunset. It starts the spectacle end. Tangible men setting to the rising thermometer day. Elevates the other hand. Mysteries combine. Patterns the accidents. Barometer supplies buoyant middle. Sought defeats information. Moon repetition tides the phases of the civilized. Birds given physical cold. Buffeted beings rising complementary rain. Succeeded rest. The sky can read. Sudden fjords glow fluffing. Triple beginning. The sudden when blinks switching footlights. As memory walks, declines itself pleasures. The polished, jagged really, eminently able to receive, operates life itself in brightened fatigues. His boat sufferings relive summits, opaque war forces beginning the performance, peasant discs flashing miser mountains, great different outlines that eminently is man short-lived within himself. A hard surface, sinister insignificance displays mists, occurred souls, towards mid-career, struggles its clearness. Now extravagant, brightness events have taken some preliminary place, losing precisely. Deliberately accumulated, blurred conceal began to move the Mendoza. Rocking that heat curve, felt followed motion, roll normal matter, crossing A to B on geometrical high seas, foot latitude, paid the impression, unpracticed ocean present, worry invisible itinerary, nothing planet impression, slow to testify, slight normal make followed knowledge. Vex horizon seemed minds, predetermined narrow space, and expatiate, looking forward, exorbitant protracted days, and the other earth to the sensual ceased, without wonder. There was moreover realized box, did not care to be visited. One could depths, the ship back's ventilator blue being made, damp passengers idly paint movement dabs along the nautical recession. Officers vaguely rusty, upwards from the horizon, separated scaffoldings visit them. Linked the hook C insertion, one might have thought mouldings towards incomprehensible colours, confused bulbous gravity become detached pyramids, top rising brightness seen luminous in decomposing texture, a long-looking sky, bubblings twist nonchalant, from immobilized streaks one could matter behind the main structure. For rows further, see scattering distance, edge dissolving sea. Flaming variegated border remained invisible. Up in a how grew narrower, surmounted remnants, dull flat forms, cloud flagstones, smoking mass. Sun completely one superimposed look, drawn out sideways against the glistening parts. Mother of pearl reefs the meanwhile, lighting up the find. A path appeared through time's fall. A circular obstacle, bloated sectors pierce circular distinct vaporous octopus, clenched advancing light, inimical architecture, coloured perspective Japanese. Flattened shapes spilling first phase by a dull withdrawal. Clear-cut red-hot moment once was solid contorted colour. Little by little structures, indefinable in the set dark, migratory ocean edge. Like a sheet of glow, Out the cherry, innumerable upwards disappear. An escoured whirl, the day wisps in declined spectrum. Elusive strings perpendicularly distributed in each vapor exactness. Running elusive property. Blues network, spun heated exposure. Metal from behind vermilion, ever thinner spite, revealing the same time densities. A substance bowl repeated difficult parts when it showed itself. The end liquids, blends stability in their apparent touch. Another different individuality, exclusive opposite materialized with amplified sideways fade. Right rubbing left over the just ever thinner scene seemed soon after that new enriched intervals until invisible had been suddenly repeated. Touched mauve fade, slowly out, dust a seconds. Uniform the previous in cement effects, the cleansed latter, taking cast ramparts of the sky, confused crown, played direction of the sun, acquired their changed tops, their hardened volume, browns and purples like a skeleton as their effulgence in filament fade. One could see bursts effects. By now, salmon block flax was no longer held, yet small life, unperceived richness, recreated in a rich of hitherto like whimsical paper, veil behind the suddenly. Then is felt fading too. Remained green protuberances came into the left. On grainy alpine outlines, hillocky processes follows, perfectly comprehensible anguish. Attended by my noting it, adopt occasion, we knew alchemy succeeds. To open night palette, squeeze fresh spectacle, become certain contrast. Still sparkle the complementary tube, changing uncertainty. Its beginning mark can foresee, behind the sky, almost suddenly, charcoal resurgence occasion. Struck me from pink to green. Stealth plate photographic night, undoubtedly a new colour. Comes on as if by immense screen transition, parallel peninsulas replace a vision of negative arrows. Stretching flat, sandy coast causes pale surprise, sculpted illusion, lagoons white and green, no longer other times invert, granite coastal daylight, reconstitution fjords, inland sea, normally peppered, became after dinner engraving, swarms of colour set once more, turned towards waves, an ocean transparency, graceful the normal imperceptible, was changed beside scattering, further blue soon, the very usual, in opaque process, provisional flats, hollow shadows, one can see themselves, past trick, every extinguished second, alive in congealed confuse, darkness growing itself. Okay, thank you. So that is me done. Thank you for enduring. I'd like to welcome Josie back for the last few minutes.
That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure and a privilege to hear you read and to see some of your wonderful collages. So much food for thought there. And so really this is just to wind up and say thank you so much. If we were in a live environment, there would be resounding applause. So I leave you with imagined applause and huge thanks.
No, thanks, Josie, for introducing, and thanks to all of the technicians behind the scenes. Thanks to Laura and Mark for helping me not screw up big time, and thanks for everybody for actually, taking the trouble in a really busy and stressful time of people's lives to actually listen in. Thanks ever so much. Thanks to Tony Desmond from for putting the slip out. I hope you all have a really peaceful evening. Thank you.
Good night.